Hello, and welcome back. I am Cat Monarch. Today I shall be telling you of my 6th round at UK Nationals 2023 in Birmingham. It sucked. I did not enjoy this particular round. I enjoyed the rest of the event, but I hated this round. That is because the round in question I was playing against Cyberstorm Access format Superheavy Samurai before the ban list dropped midway through the tournament. This is a deck which has less than half the deck as actual Superheavy Samurai cards, and the remaining few that make it to 20 cards are Earth Machine extenders or generic payoffs. The extra deck runs 2 to 3 Superheavy Samurai names, 2 of which are both the Link 1 monster. My brother and I picked up Superheavy Samurai and Monarchs respectively when we started playing TCG Yugioh. As a result, I am very familiar with and greatly enjoy Superheavy Samurai as a deck. Cyberstorm Access is the worst version I've seen yet, and I hate it with a burning passion. It encapsulates many things I dislike about modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, be it card design, the cards you play, and how the competitive scene classes decks. I would go into more details right now, but this is the short version, so this is what I need to say about it for now. Anyway, let's get into a video on Superheavy Samurai. This deck is a deck that has many monsters, as you can see. This is the spell lineup, and this is the trap lineup. Well, I don't really know if this counts, but it is the closest we'll ever get, I think. The extra deck is many synchro monsters and a singular link monster. Going over card by card, there are 3 groups in the main deck. Superheavy Samurai is the first group with no particularly defining traits, and starting off we will go over Superheavy Samurai Helper. This card is level 1 with 0 attack and defense. During damage calculation, if your defense position monster battles an opponent's monster while you have no spells or traps in your graveyard, quick effect, you can discard this card, then target one Superheavy Samurai monster you control other than the battling monster. Your battling monster gains defense equal to that monster's defense during that damage calculation only. When an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Superheavy Samurai monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Superheavy Samurai Stealthy. Level 1, 200 attack, 700 defense. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon it once per turn this way. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, quick effect, you can tribute this card to target a spell or trap in your opponent's graveyard to set it to your field, but banish it when it leaves the field. Superheavy Samurai Drum. This card is level 1 tuner with 300 attack and defense. If this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target one Superheavy Samurai monster in your graveyard except Drum, special summon it, Superheavy Samurai Blowtorch. This is another level 1 with 500 attack and 300 defense. When an opponent's monster declares an attack while you have no spells, traps in your graveyard, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to target a Superheavy Samurai monster you control. Change the attack target to it and perform damage calculation. When your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can change the attack target to this card and perform damage calculation. This card cannot be destroyed by battle. Superheavy Samurai Battle Ball. This card is level 2 Dark Machine Tuner with 100 attack and 800 defense. If all monsters you control are Superheavy Samurai, and you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls that has a level, send both it and this card from the field to the grave to special summon a Superheavy Samurai Synchro monster from your extra deck, with the combined level of those 2 monsters in the graveyard. Superheavy Samurai Trumpeter. This card is a level 2 tuner with 300 attack and 600 defense. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. After this card was special summoned this way, it locks you into Superheavy Samurai monsters. If this card is tributed for the tribute summon of a Superheavy Samurai monster and sent to the graveyard, while you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. Superheavy Samurai Bike. This monster is level 2 tuner with 800 attack and 1200 defense. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can discard this card to just add a Superheavy Samurai monster from your deck to your hand. You can target one machine monster you control to increase its level by 2. Superheavy Samurai Fist is yet another level 2 machine tuner with 900 attack and 900 defense. During your battle phase, If your Super Heavy Samurai monster destroyed an opponent's monster by battle this battle phase, you can quick effect Synchro Summon, using monsters you control, including this card as material. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can target a Super Heavy Samurai Synchro monster, reduce the level by 1. If you do, special summon this card from your graveyard, and then it locks you into Super Heavy Samurai monsters. Super Heavy Samurai Giga Gloves, level 3, 100 attack and 1000 defense. If this card is sent to the graveyard and you have no spell traps in your graveyard, you can look at 5 cards from the top of your deck and place them on the top of your deck in any order. When an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you can banish this card, excavate the top card of your deck, and if it is a Super Heavy Samurai monster, add it to your hand, change the attacking monster's attack to 0. Super Heavy Samurai Prepped Defense, level 3, 100 attack, 2100 defense, cannot be normal or flip summoned if you have spell or traps in the grave. When you take battle damage, if you have no spell traps in grave and this card is in your hand, you can special summon this card, and if you do, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects for the turn. Super Heavy Samurai Flutist is another level 3 with 500 attack and 1000 defense. You can tribute this card to special summon a Super Heavy Samurai monster from your hand, and during either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated that targets a Super Heavy Samurai monster you control, you can banish this card from your graveyard to negate the activation if you do destroy that card. Super Heavy Samurai Swordsman, another level 3, 1000 attack and 1800 defense. When this card is normal special summoned, you can change its battle position, and if a Super Heavy Samurai monster you control battles an opponent's monster, after damage calculation, the opponent's monster's attack and defense become 0. Super Heavy Samurai Blue Brawler is the archetypal Marshmallow, level 4 with 0 attack and 2000 defense, which cannot be destroyed by battle, and can change its battle position on normal or special summon. Super Heavy Samurai Constable is the newest addition to the archetype. It is a level 4 with 500 attack and 1500 defense. If it is normal or special summoned, you can add a face-up Machine Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can tribute this card, special summon an Earth Machine with 1500 or less attack from your hand or graveyard except itself. Super Heavy Samurai Scales, level 4 Earth Machine with 800 attack and 1800 defense. If your opponent controls 2 or more monsters and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one level 4 or lower Super Heavy Samurai monster in your grave except itself, and special summon it in defense position. Super Heavy Samurai Magnet kind of does as the name implies, level 4, 900, 1900, and when it is normal summoned, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Super Heavy Samurai monster from your hand and change this card to defense position. Your opponent must attack Magnet Super Heavy Samurai Kabuto, level 4, 1000 attack, 2000 defense. If your opponent special summons a monster, you can change as many attack position Super Heavy Samurai monsters you control as possible to defense position. The ones changed by this effect gain 500 defense until the end of the turn. Super Heavy Samurai Wagon, level 4, 1200 attack, 1800 defense. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can change its battle position. This card can attack while in face-up defense position, and if it does, apply its defense for damage calculation. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can change this face-up defense position card you control to attack position. If you do, add one Super Heavy Samurai Soul monster from your deck to your hand. Super Heavy Samurai Big Warji. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand, after which you are locked into Super Heavy Samurai monsters, and it can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of any machine monster. Super Heavy Samurai Transporter, 1200 attack and 1800 defense, level 5 monster. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand, after which you are again locked into Super Heavy Samurai. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can tribute this card, special summon up to 2 monsters from your hand to your opponent's side of the field in defense position, then draw cards equal to the number of monsters special summoned by this effect. Super Heavy Samurai Big Benkei is the OG boss monster, level 8, 1000 attack, 3500 defense. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can change its battle position. Super Heavy Samurai monsters you control can attack while in face-up defense position. If they do, apply their defense for damage calculation. And Super Heavy Samurai Thief, level 10, 1000 attack and defense. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. After summon this way, you guessed it, you're locked in Super Heavy Samurai. You contribute this card to activate one of these effects. Destroy one card in your opponent's spell or trap zone. Then you can set the destroyed spell or trap to your side of the field. Destroy one card in your opponent's pendulum zone, then you can place the destroyed card in your pendulum zone. And that sums it up for our first group of Superheavy Samurai monsters. Our second group of monsters is Superheavy Soul. These are characterized by being cards which can equip themselves to monsters you control or discard themselves for effects, and are mentioned by name on Superheavy Samurai Wagon. Soul Peacemaker. Level 1, 0 attack, defense. You can target a Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or field to that target. While equipped to a monster by this effect, monsters your opponent controls cannot target other monsters you control for attacks except the equipped monster. You contribute a monster you control equipped with this card by this card's effect to special summon a Superheavy Samurai monster from your deck. Superheavy Samurai Soul Beads. Level 1, 0 attack, defense. You can target a Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or side of the field to that target. Each turn, the first time the monster equipped with this card would be destroyed by card effect, it is not destroyed. When a defense position monster is destroyed by battle and sent to your graveyard, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to special summon that monster in attack position. Superheavy Samurai Soul Horns. Level 1, 0 attack, 300 defense. You can target one Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or side of the field to that target. It can make a second attack during each battle phase, and while it's equipped to a monster by this effect, you can special summon this card. Superheavy Samurai Soulbuster Gauntlet. The archetype Honest. 0 attack, 400 defense. You can target one Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or field to that target, it gains 400 defense. Or, during either player's damage step, when a defense position Superheavy Samurai monster you control battles an opponent's monster and you have no spell trap cards in your graveyard, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. Your battling monster's defense becomes double its original defense until the end of the turn. Superheavy Samurai Soulbreaker Armor. Level 1, 0 attack, 500 defense. You can target one Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or side of the field to that target. It loses 1000 defense, and it cannot be destroyed by battle. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish all Superheavy Samurai Soulbreaker Armors from your graveyard, then target one Superheavy Samurai monster on the field, whose current defense is lower than its original defense. Inflict the difference as damage to your opponent between its current and original defense. Superheavy Samurai Soul Claw. Level 2, 500 attack and 500 defense. You can target a Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or side of the field to that target. It gains 500 attack and defense. Also, it cannot be destroyed by battle. While this card is equipped to a monster by this card's effect, you can special summon this card. Superheavy Samurai Soulfire Suit. Level 2 Fire Machine with 800 attack and defense. You can target one Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or side of the field to that target. Its level becomes 5. During either player's turn, you can discard this card to target a defense position Superheavy Samurai monster you control. Until the end of the turn, it loses 800 defense, but cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Superheavy Samurai Soul Bang Cannon is a level 3, 1000 attack and defense. You can target a Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or side of the field to the target. It gains 1000 defense. During either player's battle phase, when your opponent activates a card or effect while you control a defense position Superheavy Samurai monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard to negate the activation. If you destroy it, then destroy as many monsters on the field as possible, minimum 1, and if you do, both players take 1000 damage. Superheavy Samurai Soul Shield Wall. Level 3, 1200 attack and defense. You can target a Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or side of the field to the target, it gains 1200 defense. When the monster equipped with this card by this effect is targeted for an attack, you can send this equipped card to the graveyard to negate the attack, but the equipped monster's defense becomes 0. Superheavy Samurai Soul Gaia Booster. It's level 4, 0/0, and you can target a Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this card from your hand or field to that monster. The equipped monster is treated as a tuner. If you have no spell traps in your graveyard and this card was equipped to a monster by this card's effect, you can special summon this equipped card. And the MVP of the Superheavy Samurai Soul cards is Superheavy Samurai Soul Piercer. It's 1200 attack and 0 defense, level 4. You can target a Superheavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or side of the field to the target.
If it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, search a Superheavy Samurai monster from your deck to your hand except itself. And the third group that is present in the main deck is the Superheavy Samurai Pendulums. There are 2 1-scale pendulums and 2 8-scale pendulums. Superheavy Samurai General Coral, level 1, pendulum scale 8, attack 300, defense 500. The pendulum effect is, while you have a spell or trap cards in your graveyard, this card's pendulum scale becomes 4. Once per turn, when a Superheavy Samurai monster you control destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you activate this effect. That monster can make a second attack in a row, even if this card leaves the field. The monster effect is, if you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can contribute up to 2 Superheavy Samurai monsters to draw that many cards. Superheavy Samurai Prodigy Wakashi is a dark level 4 pendulum with 8 scale, machine tuner, 1000 attack and 1500 defense. Pendulum effect: if you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can place a Superheavy Samurai Pendulum monster from your deck, except itself, in your other pendulum zone to special summon this card. Monster effect is, if you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can discard a monster to special summon a Superheavy Samurai monster from your hand or deck in defense position, locking you into Superheavy Samurai. If this card is used as synchro material and added to your extra deck face up, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. Superheavy Samurai Monk Big Benkei, level 8, 1-scale pendulum monster with 1000 attack and 3500 defense. Pendulum effect: if you control a Superheavy Samurai monster, you can add a Superheavy Samurai Soul monster from your deck to your hand. If you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can send a Superheavy Samurai Big Benkei from your hand or deck to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And like Prodigy, if it's used as synchro material and added to your extra deck face up, you can place it in the pendulum zone. And last in the main deck, we have Superheavy Samurai General Jade. It is another level 8 pendulum with pendulum 1 scale and has 1800 attack, 2800 defense. Pendulum effect: you cannot pendulum summon monsters except Superheavy Samurai monsters. This effect cannot be negated. Once per turn, you can target one Superheavy Samurai monster you control to increase its level by 1, even if this card leaves the field. Monster effect is that you can tribute summon this card by tributing one Superheavy Samurai monster. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can change its battle position, and this card can attack while in face-up defense position using defense for damage calculation. Now that the main deck has been covered, let's talk about the extra deck. The extra deck is very simple to divide. You've got synchro monsters and E1 link monster. Superheavy Samurai Scarecrow is an Earth Machine 0 attack, link 1 with a down left arrow. The requirements to summon it are a singular Superheavy Samurai monster. Cannot be used as link material. While you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can discard a monster to target a Superheavy Samurai monster in your graveyard, special summon it to your zone this card points to in defense position. For our synchro monsters, we start with Superheavy Samurai Swordmaster Musashi, level 5 machine synchro with 300 attack, 2300 defense. The requirements are a tuner and one or more non-tuner monsters. When this card is synchro summoned, you can target a machine monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. If you have a spell or trap card in your graveyard, you cannot normal or special summon it or a monster with its name for the rest of the turn. This card can attack while in face-up defense position. If it does, apply defense for damage calculation. Superheavy Samurai Ogre Shuten Doji, level 6, 500 attack and 2500 defense, requiring a machine tuner and one or more non-tuner Superheavy Samurai monsters. Can attack while in face-up defense. If it does, apply defense for damage calculation. When this card is synchro summoned, while you have no spell traps in your graveyard, you can destroy all spell and trap cards your opponent controls. Superheavy Samurai Stealth Ninja, level 7, 1200 attack and 2800 defense. Requires a machine type tuner and one or more non-tuner machine type monsters. This card can attack while in face-up defense position. If it does, apply defense for damage calculation. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can halve this card's original defense until the end of the turn, and if you do, this card can attack your opponent directly this turn. Once per turn during the next standby phase, after this card was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card. Superheavy Samurai General Shanao is a dark machine pendulum synchro with a 1 scale. The requirements to summon this card are a tuner and 1 or more non-tuner monsters, 2000 attack and 2500 defense. With the pendulum effect, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card. Then, if you have no spell or traps in your grave, change that opponent's monster's attack to 0, also negate its effects. This card can attack while in face-up defense position. If it does, apply its defense for damage calculation. Once per turn, during the battle phase, if you control this synchro summoned card, quick effect, you can special summon a Superheavy Samurai monster card from your graveyard, or face-up spell or trap zone. Then you can place this card in your pendulum zone. Superheavy Samurai Ninja Saratobi is also a level 8 synchro, with 2000 attack and 2800 defense. The requirements are a machine tuner and 1 or more non-tuner Superheavy Samurai monsters. This card can attack while in face-up defense position. If it does, apply its defense for damage calculation. Once per turn during either player's turn, if you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it. If you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Superheavy Samurai Beast QB is a level 9 synchro with 1900 attack and 2500 defense. Requirements being a tuner and 1 or more non-tuner Superheavy Samurai monsters. Can attack in face-up defense position, applying defense for damage calculation. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, this card gains 900 defense for each special summoned monster your opponent controls. Superheavy Samurai Warlord Susanoo, level 10, 2400 attack and 3800 defense, requiring a machine tuner and 1 or more non-tuner Superheavy Samurai monsters. Can attack in face-up defense, applying defense for damage calc. Once per turn, during either player's turn, if you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can target a spell or trap in your opponent's graveyard to set to your field, but banish it if it leaves the field. Superheavy Samurai Steam Train King is a level 12 machine synchro, which requires a Superheavy Samurai tuner and 2 or more non-tuner Superheavy Samurai monsters. Attack 2000, defense 4800. This card can attack while in face-up defense position. If it does, apply its defense for damage calculation. Once per turn, you can discard up to 2 cards to target that many cards your opponent controls and destroy them. And once per turn, you can banish all spell and trap cards from the graveyards, and if you do, inflict 200 to your opponent for each card banished. Superheavy Samurai Overlord Masurowo, level 12 synchro with 2100 attack and 4000 defense, 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuners. This card can attack in face-up defense, applying defense for damage calculation. If a Superheavy Samurai monsters you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy a Superheavy Samurai card you control in use step. Once per turn, if your opponent activates a spell, trap card or effect, except during the damage step, you can draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. And at the very least, I should probably mention Rise to Full Height. It's a normal trap, which features Big Ben K on its artwork. It has the effect to target a face-up monster on the field, double its defense, but its defense becomes 0 at the end of the turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard to target a monster you control. Your opponent's monsters cannot attack for the rest of the turn, except to attack that monster. Superheavy Samurai can banish spell and trap cards from the graveyard with Steam Train King. There are plenty of self-banishing spell and trap cards, but playing spell and traps in Superheavy Samurai is normally more trouble than it's worth. So, as a quick summary, the cards on screen now lock you into Superheavy Samurai, acquire no spell traps in the graveyard for at least 1 effect, Actually, it's easy to see what a Superheavy Samurai core would look like. This is a core for pure Superheavy Samurai. It's 3 of Prodigy, and every card that easily gets to it, which is 3 Bike, Soul Piercer, Wagon, Monk Benkei, and 3 Peacemaker. You should also play at least 1 each of Soulhorn, Soulbuster, Gauntlet, Scales, and Benkei. As far as the extra deck goes, you need 3 Scarecrow and 1 of each name minimum, giving you a total of 18 starter cards. For those who don't know, that is absolute insanity. It is ridiculously consistent. Out of 30 test hands, only 1 did not have immediate access to Prodigy. Bike, Soul Piercer, Wagon, and Prodigy are all 1-card starters. Soul Peacemaker and Monk Benkei do require a second Superheavy Samurai. Now, of course, for anyone who has been observant, there is a small problem here. This video has shown you how I think Cyberstorm Access Superheavy Samurai should have been played. We aren't in that format anymore. The Link 1 is dead, for better or worse, which hinders the deck's consistency and recovery a fair bit. Prodigy now only manages to give you a Synchro of your choice and Pendulum Scales. If you Synchro summon a level 8 or 12, you can also get a Search or 2 for any Superheavy Samurai. This is still very good for 1 card. It still allows you to get somewhere from 5 to 19,000 points of damage on the field. It does, however, mean that there are only 2 cards which make this a 1-card combo: Prodigy itself and Superheavy Samurai Bike. Every other card is at least a 2-card combo. Soul Piercer, tributed by Soul Peacemaker, is probably your best 2-card combo, being more than enough for an OTK with multiple options to end on. As such, your profile remains relatively unchanged. A few cards less, maybe, and obviously you change the extra deck, but otherwise it is much the same. You want to play as close to 40 cards as possible, seeing as how you have fewer 1-card combos and less recovery or combo potential overall. That's not to say the deck isn't still strong, it's just reasonably consistent instead of nigh unbreakable. As for tech cards, it depends on your level of sanity. Some of the more legitimate options are Kaijus, just as a whole, Alpha the Master of Beasts, Kashtira Fenrir, and Dino Wrestler Pankratops are all good. Barrier Statue of the Drought, Jinzo, and Spell Counselor can be used if made to go first. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Marketer cards are probably pretty good to use overall, especially Citadel, seeing as practically the entire deck is Earth Machine. And the rest of this is all else I could think of which has varying levels from plausible but niche to just plain stupid. And if you like positivity from me, or just in general vibes, you can end the video here. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next video. This has been a guide to Superheavy Samurai. I very much hope it's been useful for you. And if you don't mind a bit of negativity from myself, this video is also a bit of a complaint about the modding game. I didn't want to drone on too long about the complaints at the start of the video, so I've saved my little rant for the end. Scarecrow being banned is really unfortunate, and I do detest that it has been done. That said, I understand why. It's because Konami didn't print a Superheavy Samurai restriction on Prodigy. By that I mean the pendulum effect. If it locked you into Superheavy Samurais, the entire CYAC list that people played would not be viable. The 1 card is an insane boon for the actual deck, and it simultaneously spawned a tier 1 deck with 15 or so starter cards that ends on a couple Omni Negates, maybe Masquerena, which is ready to link into Appaloosa. As such, I've seen one of my favourite archetypes see meta relevance, because it isn't the archetype being played, it is a combo line made possible by some new support. Playing against this was legitimately miserable. The meta the support helped create made Droll and Lockbird a staple card, a card famous within Yu-Gi-Oh! For being the herald of awful formats. I do enjoy playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, but this little support wave brings an amalgamation of what I hate about the modern game. Point 1. Current card design is absolutely insane. This has been a problem for a while, but in recent years we've had some truly heinous archetypes and individual cards. Tearlaments were a deck which sent both players' decks to the graveyard so one player could play the game. Granted, the problematic cards were the Ishizu cards. However, if the other player was also on Tearlament or in an anti-Tearlament deck, there was a game to be played. Otherwise, you lost. There was no point in playing. You had to be ready to play on your opponent's first turn before you had even drawn a damn card. You needed to be able to play or stop the opponent entirely. Kashtira was a deck that could rip cards straight from your extra deck and block all of your zones for your spell traps and monsters at the same time with a boss monster which is just Macrocosmos. The main deck Kashtira monsters all trigger when your opponent activates a monster effect. Between them, they have the power to banish a card you control, one card from your extra deck, and one of the top 5 cards of your deck, all of them face down. They can be resummoned every single turn using the trap, or from the deck with the zone locking Xyz. Purely is a deck of pretty much all spell cards, which give an Xyz monster the ability to beat towers, and you draw 6 cards during the opponent's turn. Towers in question constantly returns your cards to the deck as one of the best forms of removal in the game, and all of the Xyz monsters in question have the potential to be on game-winning amounts of attack through standard combos. Labyrinth has broken any good normal trap, see Dimensional Barrier and all of the Crush card virus traps. Less recent, but due to how much bullshit your opponent can actually churn out, Evenly Matched is not once per turn. Every boss monster is a generic card and can be made in actually any deck. Point 2. Competitive players naming decks. Cyberstorm Access Superheavy Samurai was not a Superheavy Samurai deck. It played as many generic hand traps and board breakers as it does cards for the deck to function. 2 of those 20 cards required for the combo aren't even Superheavy Samurai cards, for fuck's sake. This is a hand trap generic staples deck with a Superheavy Samurai engine. The extra deck maybe had a Superheavy Samurai synchro if you felt it necessary. If this card is locked into Superheavy Samurai cards while it does the combo, it loses the game because of how it was built. You cannot do Superheavy Samurai plays. Point 3. You can't go second if you brick. Superheavy Samurai, a renowned OTK deck, big monster, do big damage, multiple in-archetype stat modifiers, a piercing equip card, double attack equip card, their own honest, which works on defense, which is a very unique thing that most people aren't prepared for, the new wave of support releases, and people make a going first deck, which is just wrong on every fucking level. Going first is just that good that unless you draw power cards when going second, like Kaijus, Lava Golem, Sphere Mode, Dark Ruler, Evenly Matched, and so on, you can't play. That said, Superheavy Samurai now has 1-card combos, and it is a natural OTK deck, which, given its drastic consistency boost, now has more room for Kaijus or Kashtira monsters as board breakers. And it's still played as a going first deck. But anyway, that's what's relevant to this particular build of Superheavy Samurai and the format it created. Of course, some of it are exaggerations, but my views stand. Also, I kind of like Labyrinth, so a bit give and take with that one. But enough of that. It's time for the end of the video. I'll see you next time, and I will not rant about this format or Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. This is the last Yu-Gi-Oh! Video for a little while, unless something spectacular happens for me for some reason. My name is Cat Monarch, and thanks very much for watching. You have a good day.